condition statement. So that's perfect. Let me run the script. So yes, completed the run. So now you can see here, now while loop, do loop, when it is 1, I am less than equal to 5 and my value is 2, right? Starting with do loop, count is 1, but the message that has passed is 2, right? My do loop count is 1, whereas I am less than equal to 5 and my value is 2. The reason is I have done it after the increment. These are all the logical issues we call it. Very difficult to find. Right? Where you put your statement is very important. Now the value of B is used is 2, not the 1. We expect to use 1. Right? So if you see the fifth value, so for 3 I am giving it as 4. For actual 5, you can see that it is skipped. Actual 5 has to suppose to 1. Just because we have just made it wrong. So we have put it one line, we have made a mistake. That is the reason. I hope you have noticed this. So when I say I am in count 4, but value displayed is 5. So less than equal to 5 is validated over here for the 4 itself. When it comes to 5, you notice now there is no message. So these are all possibility of skipping a line, right? It is like a skip the line, skip the one particular validation. Generally, this is what in testing the real problem will be with the developers. And this is the area, finding this area is what the most difficult part in testing, and these are all called boundary analysis. Is my boundary is matching? So here the 5 is the boundary and that boundary is not part of my script. So this is very important in while you are doing a testing, wherever there is a boundary related, you need to ensure that it is proper. The mistake that we have done is we have incremented the value, then we have put in the conditional statement. So what I need to do is I need to increment the value only after the condition. So I should not increment it before. That is the mistake we have done. One simple line, placement of the line can make a serious mistake. It can be an interest calculation in the banking software. So from and to date you are giving. So whether the from is inclusive, to is inclusive, or I skip the from and to, it may be fraction of some amount. Right? Unfortunately, say 31st of March, somebody has deposited some crores of rupees, crores of some currency, whichever currency it is. Right? And that crore amount doesn't have, is not calculated with the interest. Then what will happen? So this part is where generally everybody makes a mistake. In a normal unit testing, they may not test their full boundaries. They will take it granted, yes, it is working. So these are all some of the important points as a tester, when you are coding into the performance testing, we need to ensure that we reach the boundary and boundary is validated. You must be heard about equivalent partition, boundary value analysis, all this talking about this one. Cyclometric complexities. Right? Now, number of branches covered, how many covered, how many not covered. So what is the minimum number of data required to cover all the branches within the loop? Now we are creating a branches. If then else condition statement is a branches. So I am creating now branches. Is all branch value is tested. So these are all some of the important things that you need to consider when you are doing the coding. So now you can see loop is 1, count is 1. loop 2, count 2. So the boundary 5 is covered now. Right? My do loop count is 5. I am less than equal to 5 and my value is 5. Right? So if you are not giving a proper message also, that can be a problem. So this is very important that you need to understand in testing as a whole. Now, so we finished now if condition. I want to now continue with the else condition. Else, what do you want to do? There is a else if, there is else. First is let us finish up else. So else, I go with the curly braces, open and close. That means if it is more than 5, what do you want to do? So log info, I just have to say, I am above 5 and inside else loop. My current value is again, I am doing it again and again. Unless whereas we do it again and again, there is a possibility of forgetting because it's all simple. But we have not developed Java. So Java syntax we might forget. We may not forget the logic. We may not forget the command to be used. But is that command is what is Java accepts? Is that command is recognizable by Java? This is where we make a mistake. Easy to learn, but difficult to remember. When you repeat n number of times, then we remember it easily. Right? So I now put a else statement. I have completed the else statement. So I just run it now. Ultimately, the aim of testers are not putting your knowledge level in Java. It is not important. We are in RFT. Of course, RFT supports the complete Java, but we are not here to give our expertise in Java as a tester. All these loops, conditions, etc., it is all meant for certain purpose. Only for that purpose we need to use. We may not be perfect with all our statements. Possible as well. So now you can see I am above 5 and inside else loop, my current value is 6. Right? So it executes that for remaining 10. So all the 10 is covered either in if statement or in else statement. So I can also use operators over here. The condition can have an or statement if A equal to B and or C is equal to A, you can do this statement. So we can also have a statement with logical operators. So logical operators also can be used in the conditional statement. So when you are using a logical operator, you need to ensure, so I am talking about here, I am not very comfortable with the syntax of this. I don't know whether dot and or let me just try. So it is not accepting the token. Expected dot. So I have to put a dot. Or is not a field. So it is not directly taking it. So I have to look into that's what I am saying. How Java accepts the code, we need to be very clear. We need little bit of, you need to remember the code. So I need to refresh myself. Of course, these are all basics, but how long you are using the basics again and again, and where you are currently. So that matters a lot. But we can use the statement, logical operators as well, along with the condition, all has to be within the bracket. Right? So this is about loop statement. And should be ampersand and that is also possible. But what about OR statement? So OR, how do we give? So anyway, I'm not touching that right now. So it is better if you have a doubt, we stop it there. Where there is no point in continuing it because it's a waste of time actually. It is, of course, it's a simple command. You can go through W3 schools or anything, you can get that answer. So logical operators is possible to be put along with the script. Now, and maybe a capital A, I'm not sure anyway. Now, next is we move on to, so if is done, we will do now else if as well. So else if means putting additional condition inside this condition itself. So why I wanted to go into this logical operators, the complication of the test case, the way you write a test case, it depends on, these are all called branch statements. Right? Am I executing this branch? I just imagine this in code, they have multiple branches. Am I executed this branch? Am I executed this branch? So which data, what is the data that I need to give to ensure that I've executed this branch? This is what cyclomatic complexity is all about. Right? This portion is very, very important. So it is all capitals. So stands for R. So there is a help coming from Jesus, thanks a lot. So I'll just put that help into this. Learning is 2 seconds. But mind blocking to learn. So that is more than, so I use 5. This is now OR statement. So A is less than equal to 10. You complete. So now you can see the syntax is gone. So either double AND or A and B. So these are all acceptable values. So and A is less than equal to 10. So here when we finish the count, A will be incremented inside. So A will be greater than 10. So this loop will get executed for both the conditions. Right? So this is what the condition. Now when you are doing actual testing, you need to test for this as well as this value, changing this value and this value. What is the best combination to test that you are inside? That is what I wanted to try to tell you. And this is where we miss as a testers. There can be possibility that it becomes an open end. Open end means it never gets to a closure. The logic is not closed. The combinations is not fully covered. So then what happens if I give a value with the combination means then it is not validated. So where I land. These are all the typical problem in testing. Right? And automating those is what is very, very important. Automating a enability or disability is not important. Automating this right data set, ensure that you are getting inside that condition is what is important. Here there are sometimes what happens, the values that we give, it may not really give a meaning to it. But in reality, all these values are having a meaning. Right? So that is what I just wanted to tell you. So I can always say A and. So they say A and the AND also can be used. Right? But when I use AND, it is not allowing me to use it. So I use double ampersand. So now it is accepting me. So now I will say greater than 10. So now I will say greater than 10. That means always this B value is evaluated because the value of A is At the end of the statement, value of A is always greater than 10. So if putting a less than equal to 10, it doesn't make any sense. Because when it comes out of this while loop, right, always the A value is greater than 10. So there is no point. These are all unachievable statements. This is what we call it as unachievable statement. This, as per the coding, this will be a right statement. But this code never gets executed. There is no possibility of executing this code under this condition. This is what is very important for people to understand. These are all called code not covered, coverage. We call about the coverage, test coverage. The test coverage is if you have a developer has written a code in this fashion somewhere, in this pattern, you can rest assured this code never gets executed. Right? Of course, you can say this code is always getting executed. But here, B is less than equal to 5 is when B equal to 1 to 4, then what happens? 1 to 4, here B value is 1, A value is less than equal to 2, no. It goes to the else statement. Right? So for all, even if it is B is less than equal to 5, this statement, as I said earlier, never gets executed. So this is all the important parts that you need to cover. These are all we call it as a code coverage. I am covering the statement of the code in actual development. These are all supposed to be part of the unit testing, but always this is the problem with the developers. Developers wanted to just put all the possible combinations, but they never realize whether it is achievable or not achievable. Let me run this now. You can see only else value is same and the else value, the statement is wrong. I am above 5, it will come, but my current value of B is, right? So my current value of B is actually so and so. So you can see that how the mistakes are done and where testers has to be focused. I always say in my company, I always tell people the approach or how you bring the bugs which are all buried bugs inside the software. Software is not a bug that is visible. These are all called buried bugs. So how you are going to bring the bug out? That is the effectiveness of the tester. Right? So if you see here in this statement, you will never see, right? And my do loop count is 1. I am above 5 and inside else loop, my current value of B is 1. Contradictory statements. Right? Whatever you try to do, you never achieve the statement or covering the statement that is in the unit. But code is right. These are all what is important to be understood, to be managed. Right? This is where everybody makes mistake. Sometimes accidental, sometimes design document doesn't cover the probable values. So these are all, you have to be very careful. All happens because of the conditional statement. Whatever be the condition. Whichever command you use in the condition. I am covering all the conditions. Now this is one branch. This is one branch. These two branches I am covering or not. This is what cyclomatic complexity is all about. This is mostly pertaining to unit test cases, but today it is all been taught as a testing. Now trend in India in fact is they want all multiple skill set people. Anyway, this is about if. Now we move on to else if. So else if I'll try to cover here. Else is covered. I'll put it as a separate entity. So I'll use the values, maybe I'll use the do loop. If, else, if. Okay, I'll put it here itself. I don't want to change the existing code. I'll do it as a separate entity again. Anyway, I'll do it before increment. So if b is less than equal to 5, right? I go here, create my command. So if b is greater than 5, I say log info. So if you don't know the syntax, as I said, control space. Control space will take you to that. So these are all the possible available information on log. So log info. I am in if else if condition, right?